as Lee said, Hurricane Helene, our work in harm reduction, I think we have had some victories, I think, but, for those of us that, been impacted by the hurricane, some of that work is impacted, certainly in North Carolina and Tennessee. I know a couple of folks, South Carolina, but, we also have a couple other hurricanes that are coming along. I think the other big challenge is, what do we kind of do when we have natural disasters or other things that that impact our work also? All right. I mean, does it impact the supply chain that we have to access harm reduction supplies? But what do we do for folks that are marginally housed and homeless? What do we do for our programs that may be underwater? What do we do for programs that may be programs that are off the grid, that get impacted, that we can't necessarily run to the normal funders to get some supplies to them as well? So I want to talk a kind of a bit about that, but more importantly, I want to do a little check-in and just see how folks are doing. Danny, I know you do a ton of work, so let's introduce folks first, and then, but Danny, I want to start with you as we start introductions. How are you doing, and how are the people that you work with doing?
Hi, thanks so much. Yeah, so Danny Clausen, I'm the executive director of the Virginia Harm Reduction Coalition, and we serve Southwest Virginia primarily. We have a couple of staff that were impacted. There's about 3 counties, the very tip of Southwest Virginia, that were impacted by Helene, and so we have a couple of staff, one that's still on a boil watery, sorry, boil water advisory, and have dealt with power issues. But overall, our service area has been really well supported and okay. And so our role in the last couple of weeks has just been to support all of the organizations that are here. I also wanted to contextualize my connection to the region. I am not from Western North Carolina, but other side of my life, I'm a whitewater kayaker. And so because of that, I am really deeply connected to a lot of the most impacted places. I have, as a kayaker, I'm on the rivers that were negatively impacted. I have pictures of me at dive bars in Black Mountain. I have spent the night with friends in Boone. I have camped in Silva. Silva is actually where I took my first swift water rescue course. And I'm therefore connected to a lot of Western North Carolina natives that are also voters. So that's how I come into this conversation. But mostly I just agreed to come on to have somebody to talk because I didn't know the capacity of the other programs. So I'm really mostly just here to fill in the blanks and uplift the programs that are really in the thick of it and are living in the area.
Yeah, Danny, I'm glad to hear you folks are for the most part okay. I mean, the last count that I heard was that there've been at least 17 people who have lost lives as a result of this catastrophic occurrence. I don't think we can even call them once in a lifetime or once in a decade anymore. They're just catastrophic occurrences, and I think that they're going to be happening more and more frequently as climate change, particularly climate warming, comes along. How about you, Ains? It's Ainsley, correct? I don't want to mispronounce it.
Yeah, Ainsley's perfect. Yeah, so I am with Holler Harm Reduction. We're based in Madison County, North Carolina. If you have watched the news, you've probably seen our town underwater. So basically since this Saturday after the storm, Holler, along with the local mutual aid group ROAR, started organizing as far as donation collections, distribution, and making sure that we were getting supplies out to the folks who, who weren't basically getting access to FEMA or county resources. We managed a pretty big team of volunteers for the past 2 weeks, trying to get folks drivers out, loaning ATVs out, lots of fuel. Our landlords very graciously offered us an empty building space in our like little strip mall that we operate out of. And so we were able to run the hub out of there, but we very quickly outgrew it and very quickly pissed off our landlords as well. So we are in the process of renting a new space for Roar, specifically for the donation hub. As we are in the process of going through our entire client list that we have routine access to, which is about 300 people, and trying to do wellness checks. We've been able to check in with almost half of those, if not more at this point, to confirm that folks are safe. A lot of our people are still without power, still without water, without transportation. So we are grinding, I would say. At this point, we're open 6 days a week. We brought on a new staff person to help with that as well. And so we're kind of co-located as well as collaborating on this distribution hub as well as harm reduction services. We've been really fortunate to have so many donations flowing in from outside, from Danny coming down to Stephanie coordinating, just a lot of supplies. People came from as far as Minnesota to assist and, drive down supplies for us. So we are trying to get as much stuff out. We've started coordinating with fire departments and other local organizers so that they can hand out harm reduction supplies to folks as they see fit. So giving trainings to the people at the FDs, coordinating a methadone pop-up clinic in Barnardsville, just a little bit of everything. So I would say the list is probably longer than what I can say here, but the needs change every single day. So we're just trying to stay current with what's going on.
Right. Okay. Cool. Hill Brown, tell us what's going on in your world.
Yeah, so I work for Faith and Harm Reduction as their Southern director, and I also work for the Harm Reduction and Overdose Prevention Ministries division of the United Church of Christ in the national setting. I was part of the founding board of Study Collective, helped do some consulting on Holler back in the day, and now live in Yancey, and also serve Mitchell. Wasn't running a syringe exchange here though until the last little minute. And it's been, feel really grateful for Danny bringing supplies. I think what's happened, and crisis points like this are always a revelation, right? They show where all the gaps are really fast. And so we've really seen that in Yancey. Yancey has a very antagonistic relationship towards people who use drugs and kind of always has. And so we've had a lot of folks that are in these overflow shelters, emergency shelters for folks who have lost housing, who have not been able to access any of their medication for opioid use disorder. And that's for a variety of reasons. One is that they're sort of subject to the prescribers that are in front of them. And if those prescribers aren't sympathetic, then they don't get their script. So we have folks detoxing in these overflow shelters. And, I had one prescriber say to me, well, this person's fully detoxed now. And I said, okay. Y'all were concerned that they were going to divert medication. If you're imagining someone sells drugs, I don't think they're going to stop using drugs tomorrow because they detoxed in an overflow shelter during a crisis,
Right.
So a lot of just magical thinking that's happening, trying to redirect some of that. And fortunately, we're having some folks step in from Mitchell County who have more progressive ideas about how to respond to substance use and overdose. And so we're seeing some shift happen from folks in Mitchell County, and they've roped in prescribers from Eastern Tennessee State University in Johnson City so that we can utilize that resource as well.
Perfect. Thanks. Jeffrey.
Sorry, I gotta find my unmute button. I'm on my phone. I'm in the mountains here in Western North Carolina where all this has happened. Cherokee was spared. We got a lot of wind, a lot of rain, a lot of trees down, but nothing compared to our neighbors. And so my tribe has been sending out bottled water from our bottled water company and other supplies that we don't get donations for. We send them out to on downstate to like Boone and everywhere where they got wiped out really hard. Most of our tribal workers are over there working and trying to get things settled. The women and younger generation are out sorting, helping, sorting donations out. Me and my mother was just out helping the other day, sorting donations to where it's just not a big jumbled mess of donations that like looks like a big flea market type thing. It's it's all sorted, categorized, and everything. As for our harm reduction program here in Cherokee, it's still up and going strong. Wind cap over in Asheville, I know they had to um, open up outdoors for a little bit, and then they're finally back into their building where they can do it out of the building. But they have done as much outreach as they can with what they have over there because there's so many road closures and everything. Roads are blocked. I mean, I have to fly out to Chicago for graduation here in a day or two, but I'm worried about if I'm going to be able to get over there with all the road closures and things. But we're doing great. I shouldn't say great. We're doing fine here in Cherokee, trying to help out everybody else. A lot of the tribes out west are sending like semis full of big refrigerators for after the fact when they get back to a point of actual living, because right now they're just surviving.
Right.
But when they get back to a point of living, we're trying to think ahead because the kids will need stuff for going back to school. Um, the refrigerators they'll need for when they get power back for food storage, things like that. So all of our tribes out west are all pulling together as well. And Danny, I think I speak to you a little on Facebook because I repost your harm reduction notices on my advocacy page here in Cherokee. So I do a lot. I don't do a lot, but I do repost your posts. So thank you for that because I have friends up in your area as well.
Thanks, Jeff.
And is there anything else that
Yep, that's it
I
for
missed
now.
in the
That's it for now. Let's go with the North
Okay.
Carolina harm reduction.
Hi, all. So I guess on the immediate report, our Haywood team is safe and dry, which is always what you want to see. We don't have we don't have like a building we rent out there, but our storage unit made it through, which is great. We have been out there primarily operating out of the Bethel House in Haywood County to provide immediate both basic needs support. We also run for those nearby a housing assistance program that we've worked with some donations to bulk up. So that's a very, very low barrier housing assistance program. It'll be around for I think the next 12 to 18 months. We don't have a ton, but we do have some. So if you have folks who are needing just like immediate needs to access basic shelter, please do send them our way. We are also coordinating. We sent out donated supplies to a few volunteers that made it out there over this last week. We are trying to coordinate. If I'd be curious for folks is like, for those of you who are located out west, here's our immediate needs. I've had some offers from the state and others to be like, we want to buy a bunch of naloxone. I'm happy to give them feedback about whether that's imminently needed or whether they should focus their purchasing elsewhere. So would really love folks' thoughts and feedback on that. But that's where we're at right now.
Right. And I wanted to save Stephanie for last for a couple of reasons. Stephanie, I also felt like I wasn't sure if you could give us a what's your situation. I definitely want to hear about the personal, but kind of just the kind of the bigger picture, because I think so many of us don't really know. I think this isn't what makes the 6 o'clock news, right? The 6 o'clock news isn't, organization X outgrew its emergency distribution for harm reduction supplies space and the landlord gets pissed, right? That's not what we hear. We hear, I mean, other things are important too, but also this is important also.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So, excuse me, Stephanie Almeida, Smoky Mountain Harm Reduction. I am near Jeffrey, near the reservation, well, the boundary, and we were really blessed. From the conversations that I was having with people right before the storm, none of our guys, I was going to say program participants, none of our guys knew there was a hurricane coming, and so it was really scary. Literally, I sat outside in the chair in front of the door and waited as my guys walked up 441 and like, hey, what are you doing out there? I'm going to get some food. Well, 3 miles up the road that they're walking in the middle of a hurricane, and they had no idea that it was a hurricane. And so we were just pulling people in. I stayed open 24 hours, until the storm was over. And for us, we were really lucky because the storm came right over us. And when the eye came over, it in Boston, we say it banged a left. And we were so lucky because Macon County, Jackson County would have had so much more severe damage than we did. We lost a couple of structures completely, from the folks that are willing to come forward to Macon County. There are about 100 homes that have been damaged. Nothing compared to what Ainsley experienced, or the folks in Chimney Rock, or in Burnsville, or, some of these places are just completely decimated. But our folks lost most of their stuff. The tents didn't make it through the hurricane. Nobody here in my county has even asked, how are gun shelter people? How many people? Nothing. How many people are you serving? How many people? What do you need? Not anything. So we've been on our own since the beginning. Now we've got a lot of volunteers. I'm not here by myself. I don't want to sound like Superwoman. I'm for sure not. But nobody from leadership has even picked up the phone or sent an email. Hey, what can we do to help? Oh, do you have food? Nothing. So I think for me, this has been a ginormous reflection of harm reduction as it is. Danny was here within 2 days of the storm with a truck loaded with everything humanly possible that we needed for harm reduction. We're unfunded. I don't have any money for harm reduction. And so we were really down to the ends of what we had, odds and ends, short needles. Can you have 30? I wish I had 30s, can we, can we talk about what we do have and see if we can figure out how to make it work? And then Danny pulled up and we had everything that we needed in a moment. And so that was refreshing, because the other programs that support in Macon County were closed. The downtown doors stayed open overnight just for the storm, and then they took the weekend off. I don't know about y'all, but Saturday and Sunday after the storm were slamming here. People just needed food. There was no internet. The cell phone entire network was down. Somebody cut the fiber optic cable line, or something cut it, and we had no access to any communication. Most of our guys have cell phones, but they don't have service. So it's not like the emergency alerts. I didn't even get an emergency alert from the county about the storm. So they had no information. The moms would go to the store and no EBT, no WIC, no SNAP. You only had cash. And so if you're in Macon County and you're at the bottom of the hill, you're at the bottom of the barrel. There's nothing available for you, because everybody came down from Highlands and bought up all of our food because they had cash, right? And so there was no access. So the first thing that we did was provide food. I think we've been running 6 crock pots of hot food, and some of them filled multiple times a day, depends on what people are bringing for donations. We've always fed people. I'm Sicilian, and I love with food. Anybody hungry? Come on in. The bag of banana nut muffins right here, whatever it looks like. And we've served 700 quarts of hot food since Christmas, before
Mm.
the storm. It's been unmanageable to count at this point. We're probably 400 or 500 quarts of food that we've served in the last 2 weeks. So that was the first thing we did, was organize our food. And first we organized harm reduction, then we organized the food. Next, it was the emergency things that they needed. You know, somebody needed access to a birth certificate, and there's no way to get it. So, you know, we started raising money so that we can buy people some of the needs that they had. I was posting like crazy as much as I could so that people could know that anybody's welcome to be served here. It isn't just, your house doesn't need to be destroyed off the foundation in order for you to receive services from us. We feed everybody. If you're hungry, we're going to give you food. So that was a big barrier. I think everybody wanted to help everybody else but themselves. Oh, somebody needs it more than me. And so I've been really busy telling all of the families that have come here that they're as worthy as everybody else. In this building, food is a right, not a privilege. And so if you need 10 cans of Spam and I get 10 cans, then you take them, man. I'll figure out how to get more, but you take what you need. And so that's how we've been operating everything. Folks come into the office, we have 1,000 square feet floor space. I've had to buy ginormous plastic totes so we could sort things. And say, I don't know how you're keeping track of everything up there. Good golly. I mean, I know just what we sent up with the street medics. Oh, that's another thing we did. Jess Cochran sent me 2 incredible street
Mm.
medics from Indiana. And then we had Morgan from Alabama with them. So the 3 of them hit the ground in Marshall, doing what they can, knocking doors, you know, whatever the medical needs were. So we had that going on too. I don't know, just been, it feels like it was yesterday. Somebody told me 17 days ago, and I'm like, holy shit. Okay, if you say so. I feel like it's been 24 hours. We had a guy from Florida, a kid, I don't know, he's probably in his early 30s, who somebody in Georgia saw my post, and he had been making friends on Facebook because he lost everything. And they said, hey, there's this place up here, come on. And so she brought him up here. We were able to pay to fix his car. He's a I don't know if you call him a veteran who's disabled, but during boot camp, he got shot in the hip. So we get a whopping $297 from our military. He had no place to live. He had a dog and no job. In 3 days, he had all that situated. Like, that's what the funds have helped us do, is, you know, help people with direct things that, you know, normally we couldn't pay $500 to fix somebody's car. Can't even pay $500 to fix my own car. So those donations have been uber helpful. I'm sure there's a million other things, but things are changing so rapidly. You know what everybody else
Brother
is
E
seeing.
got hurt
Hey,
approximately.
Denise. There you go.
Hmm? When he had
You want to mute her, Tony?
Yeah, Denise, can you mute yourself?
That's all right.
There you
But needs have been changing dramatically. You know, at first it was immediate medical supplies and food, and some shelter, and then it was cleanup supplies as people started to get into their homes and find 4 or 5 feet of mud. You know, how do you manage with this? So snow shovels, literally, they were asking for snow shovels so that they could, you know, get all the mud out. And
Mhm.
then once all the mud is out, then you got to disinfect everything. So down to the studs, right? And so bleach only cleans the mold. It's got to be vinegar or a different product. So you're talking about multiple processes and days and days and days of supplies for people to be able to do what they need to.
Mhm.
And Macon County didn't have anything ready for days. Operation Airdrop, the first day they landed in Macon County Airport, we had 7 planes filled with supplies. So that's what we were feeding to Marshall, was the stuff that was coming in on those flights. I can't thank them enough. I kissed the guy all over his face, the first one that landed. Just thank you so much for coming and helping us. What, you know, they don't charge anything. They won't even take money for gas for the planes. Like, they were just incredible. So in summary, I guess it took a shitload of us in all kinds of different places with all kinds of different resources, but nothing was coordinated. It was just, holy shit, Danny, thank you, man. Oh, Operation Airdrop, thank you. What do you need? I don't know. Let's wait till tomorrow. So it was like at this state of readiness 24 hours a day and just trying to meet the needs as they were coming. So
Right.
I'm pretty tired.
I imagine you all are, but I think, I mean, on behalf of everybody here, but I think on behalf of a whole bunch of people who will probably never get a chance to say it to you, thank you. You know, thank you to you, but thank you to all of you. I mean, you know, I think that people don't understand the level of work that you do. I get to go run around and talk to people and look somewhat cute. And that's kind of, you were supposed to laugh at that one, Danny. And but but you guys are on the front line doing the work that people sometimes say is unnecessary, but to me is the most necessary, right? I think that I don't think that this is one of those times or places where I need your political opinion on how you feel about harm reduction, or your political opinion on how you feel about substance use disorder, or people who use I don't care about that. But I think Ainsley, like you, to me, are like just the example of what I always say when people say, how do you live in Appalachia? And I say, this is how I live in Appalachia, right? It's this stuff. It's this part of the stuff. It's like, it's the what we do. This is how we do. So I know that you all are exhausted. I know you're super tired, but what I want to ask you is, what can we do? What is left? What is still needed to be done? What do you need from us? One of the things that I keep thinking, and Lee and Lavina and Brandon are going to kill me when I say this, but Brandon, can we get out quickly? And I mean, like, by end of week quick, like a blurb on Danny's group, a blurb on Stephanie's group, a blurb on Ainsley's group, a blurb on Hill's group, and give a link to how people can donate to them, right? Can we get that out this week? And then that way it's like, whatever the donations are, they go directly to you. And I know, and I know you might not even have the bandwidth, but if you could give us the paragraph to say, either here's what we need and here's the link. That's all I need, and we'll email it out to our whole mailing list and our AOR mailing list, and that's what I mean. I think, I don't know what else we can do, but hopefully you could tell us now and tell other people what it is that we could do. Yeah.
Yeah, Bishop Haley sends his regards to everyone, and thank you all for all the work that you're doing. And as soon as you send it, we'll get it posted out through all of our social media networks too as well. So yeah, great idea, and thank God for you guys doing the work that you're doing. It's just tremendous. And as Tony said, yeah, just can't even imagine what you're going through emotionally, as well as the physical demands that are placed on you, just to make sure that people are well and they're getting what they're doing. So thank you all. Thank you so much.
Right. Brandon, I know, Brandon, are you here? Can we, Lavina, I saw you give me a thumbs up. Brandon, can we get that done this week?
Yeah, I think we could definitely get that done by the end of the week, latest early next week. I just have to check in with Javi, see how she's doing too. But yeah,
Okay.
if I get the information from everybody, we could for sure start getting on that.
Okay. Lee, can you jump in and give them a hand?
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
think, I think one of our hopes from this conversation was we'd talk a bit about how to support all of y'all. And so 100% we'll get it done.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. And so I mean, and again, like I said, if you want to just drop it in the chat and say, here it is, we can go from there. But also, I listen, again, I think it's sometimes it's a hierarchy, but it's a higher class of problems, right? I think that the idea that, 10 cans of Spam might not sound like a lot to somebody, but 10 cans of Spam might be all a family has for a week or a couple of weeks even, and I think that we don't think about it like that. Again, we had Helene, but then we had Milton right behind it. And all indicators are that there are two more, if not three, coming down the pike real soon here. And so this is what we can do in the immediate. What can we do to help you think about kind of planning in the future? What's the Ainsley, it sounds like you are already grown out of the space that you're in now. What is there anything else that we can do in the immediate to help you get what you need right now?
Yeah, one thing that we've been working, I mean, like, I think a lot of folks locally have been saying this because I think we've all been inundated with supplies and like we're getting donations, which is really great because I know at least for Holler, we're hoping to be able to start just handing out cash to our folks when they to help start rebuilding and things like that. Luckily, our collaborator Roar is not 501c3 certified at the moment, so they're a mutual aid group, so can just hand out cash, which is really phenomenal. So we're doing that collaboration. I think much like most Western counties, harm reduction isn't exactly valued as a service. So finding space has been really difficult. And one thing that we've started looking at is if there's an option for us to be able to buy a building so that we can co-locate with Roar long term. So not only be able to do harm reduction services, but food services.
And where would you be looking to buy that building?
In Marshall, so someplace hopefully centrally located. Honestly, right now, we've been talking about, like, is there an option where we can buy out our landlord who owns the building that we're in? Is there another building that's for sale locally that would be an option for us? It's complicated too, because a lot of the buildings, people are making land grabs at the moment for folks who own and have had damage to their properties. There's been a lot of stuff going around about, just unfair markups or, offering unfair prices. So we don't want to price anybody out of a home that they can afford. So we're kind of walking this fine line of trying to see if we can purchase from somebody who is either already for sale or something. But so yeah, donations are always very well accepted. I think if anybody's in a position of power when it comes to funding as well, like remembering that this is going to be a several year long process of recovery and building for us. And I think one thing that we were facing is the idea of like, what if there isn't funding available in Western North Carolina moving past this? I mean, some of our biggest funders in the area are Dogwood Health Trust, and but the funding cycles with them can be pretty complicated and difficult and or absent altogether. So I think making sure that there is continuous funding available for harm reduction programs and not just disaster relief, unrestricted funds would change the game right now. Because unfortunately I still have to buy some bullshit that was in a grant at one point. So
Right.
yeah, I think, and honestly, just flexibility with us showing up has been like that grace has been really significant for our programs and our staff.
Hey, did I know Hillary had on our team had another call, but did Hillary make it here?
No, I am pretty sure, absent her speaking up, she's still
Oh, that's right. She's on the tobacco call. Right. Okay. Yeah. So listen. So Lee, can you take a note? Here's the question that I would like for you to ask Hillary. Ask Hillary if we can ask the Centers for Disease Control if we can provide capacity building to these groups in North Carolina with that capacity building grant, even though these are not CDC funded grantees. I don't know the answer, but I would think that this is an emergency. And then so let's draft an email for our project officer, but also let's copy Dr. Fanfare on top of it too. All right. And then that way, maybe because we're in this kind of holding pattern with some of the capacity building. So maybe we can help you with some assessment work, like what is the likelihood or what available services are there, what projects or what housing is available or what properties are available. Can we provide technical assistance in that way? Can we be a pass-through? Can we help you figure out evaluation or something like that? Danny, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think you're right on a good track with technical assistance, especially around I think it would be really helpful for community education group to dig into the disaster relief funds and kind of figure out the technical part of accessing those funds and help funnel that to the harm reduction organizations, right? Because there's going to be a lot of money flowing in, a lot of official government money.
Right.
And I think it makes a lot of sense for these organizations to have access to that. And that could be super helpful.
Right.
The other thing, Tony, oh, sorry, I didn't
No, no,
mean
go
to
ahead. Go ahead,
interrupt
Stephanie.
you. I was just gonna say, we had no playbook, right? And so typically in my substance use treatment part of our life, we have policies and procedures relating to disaster. And so I know how I operate, and we just don't have that. So
Mm.
maybe some of the technical assistance can be creating a draft of what that might look like for agencies to be able to then take and adapt for themselves. I don't know if there's any room to prevent this from happening again, but I know I was flying by the seat of my pants and like, holy shit, who can we call? Can't call anybody. I ain't got a damn phone. Like, it was
Right.
crazy. It
Right.
was just crazy. Cut off from the communication was the hardest part. And having people come out of their houses 4 or 5 days later and not even know that there's been a hurricane and that people's lives were, have been destroyed. That was probably the hardest thing for me, is to be the deliverer of that news. So
Right.
I don't know how to prevent some of this from happening again, but I have to be better organized moving forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, I'm flying by the seat of my pants in a different way, where I'm trying to think about what are the resources that we might have available, and if they'll let us flip them to use them for this emergency need. And I don't know the answer, but I mean, you know me, I'll go ask the question and let them tell us yes or no, and we can tell you kind of what they say. North Carolina, you had your hand up first. Jeffrey, then I'm coming to you.
Yeah, one thought, I know Lee and I had talked about this a little bit on a call last week, is, I know the legislature is about to be back in session. I imagine there will be a lot of talk about emergency support. I think Ainsley's exactly right in that harm reduction is not typically known nor valued as sort of a peer and first responder in disasters, but that's absolutely what's happening. And so I would love, as much as, I know CEG, you guys are really connected in, and just whoever's connected into that space to help tell the story of what is happening, and sort of help marshal whatever emergency resources might be occurring in this space directly toward harm reduction programs, which is, I think, a thing that has not traditionally happened. I just saw that the state is putting out, they're using their Medicaid and single stream dollars to flex money toward treatment providers and others in this space. And I just really want to see harm reduction programs receive that kind of direct help. Like Ainsley said, I think what we all need now is like just unrestricted money to kind of move with the emergency as it evolves.
Okay. I think that we can consider that one too. Jeffrey.
I'm like Stephanie. We woke up the next morning, we were cut off from the entire world. No cellular service, no places to call, no power, nothing. So, as Danny mentioned in the chat form, battery powered radios, flashlights, things of that nature, and actually check on them to see if they have their medicines or if we can get their medicines to them and how we can get their medicines to them. Because I know a few over in Nashville that have lost all their medicines, and they're working with WinCap to get some medicines back to get them through until their next cycle is ready at the pharmacy. That is, if the pharmacy is open. And again, still places in Asheville are still taking only cash.
Wow.
So that we're dealing with.
Well, right, because they would have to run the prescription, even if it is on a federal program, Medicaid, Medicare, they still have to run it through a database, which they cannot do because they don't have connectivity. Now, hey, Lynn, thanks for asking this question, because this is a question that I kind of had too, but you asked it much more correctly than I did. Lynn has said, is there a list of doctors that are willing to write scripts willing to prescribe to folks in this situation and willing to write prescriptions. Because what if you don't have a prescription? If they can't look, how do they even look up your prescription at the pharmacy?
Right.
So,
Right.
And I-
Tony,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't, one thought just occurred to me also too, and that might be having a conversation with DOE about renewable energy resources and funding for solar panels and other things. So when we have this connection issue for one thing, we might have a backup with the solar energy. If we have panels on some of the buildings that we own, that we may be able to assist people with refrigeration and connectivity and so forth and so on. So that might be another thing to look at as we're pursuing this funding cycle. We need to ask about how could we rehab our buildings so that they will be more sustainable in the event that we have another disaster.
Right. And so what about this list of doctors? How does one get a prescription if I need a prescription for anything at this point? Hill, you came off on that one.
Yeah. So this has been a significant issue in Yancey and Mitchell. And just for a little bit of context, Yancey is not a place that people know well. And it doesn't have a town center that got sort of devastated in the same way that like Marshall did. Marshall's been on the news a lot because that town center really just flooded out. Burnsville, that didn't happen, and that's really the town center there, but Yancey's very small. And so there are 3 pharmacies. And when this happened, the independent pharmacy was refusing to give people their MOUD unless the prescriber would physically come write the script in front of them, which was not possible, right? So we had that issue, which was about stigma, and it was not about controlled substances. So I had a conversation with the state opioid treatment authority over the weekend, and they did take my call over the weekend, which was great. And we worked through that, and that pharmacy is now issuing prescriptions. But I think, you know, what's happening is in Western North Carolina, chain pharmacies are doing a little bit better. But we have run into issues where pharmacies kind of go, well, we have these other problems, and so we can't issue your script. And we're struggling out here to understand, is it really about your capacity or your ability, or is it that you don't want to do it and you can kind of point to that? So again, you know, there's a lot of human goodness and connection and wanting to support people, but it has its limits, and we're seeing it not super extend to the folks that many of us serve. Mitchell's a little bit different, and we have watched some community clinics out there take on pharmacy services, like in CeeLo, which was an area in Mitchell that was really devastated. That community clinic just started acting as a pharmacy. So we're seeing both extremes, you know.
So, I mean, you know, and so I think that like one of the things, and I'm glad we had this conversation, because again, I think it's a bit of a, you don't know what you don't know if you don't know it kind of thing. And I think the idea that, thanks Lynn that's Dr. Lynn O'Connell at Marshall University, who does a lot of bang up work. If you don't know who she is, Google her, do a deep dive. It's one of the best leaders that we have in West Virginia, or in all of Appalachia, actually. But I think that this is it, right? We've got to be thinking not just about the impact of this time. And I think we've said it a bit on this call. We've got to be thinking about the next time, because there's already, I think, 2 to 3 stories that say that there are 2 hurricanes that are coming behind this one behind Milton. And I, you know, and what we're seeing is that you know, while Helene had this devastation in North Carolina, we haven't even begun to talk about what happened in Florida. We haven't begun to talk about what's happening in these other states. And those folks are reeling now a week later. And if we've got 2 more storms coming behind this, man, oh man, the Shevitz, like I think Stephanie, like you said, we need a plan. Like it's hit you. Now what's going to happen to the other people that is going to hit behind them? And, you know, and I don't know that we all have, again, unfortunately, we already were at capacity in so many ways in what we were doing. And now this, and now this, and now this, and now this, and now this. Danny.
Yeah, to your point, I think as we talk about, and I think for APC and CEG, it would be really helpful to have continuing conversations and panels like this, because to me, it's not just the logistics of making sure that you have a shortwave radio, or that you're communicating hurricane risk to our participants before it comes. It's also what we're talking about of how we're positioning ourselves in the community, right? Like, Holler and Steady and Smoky Mountain and Faith and Harm Reduction, all these organizations that are historically marginalized in our community, they are showing up in a very public way, and funneling supplies into the community. And so that can also have a knock-on effect for harm reduction support moving forward, right? Because, hey, you gave me $100 to, hire some help to clear my property, right? This is a way for us to also build goodwill in the community and show that harm reduction is actually a mutual aid project that is grounded in community deeply. And so thinking about it in ways of, to your point, this is going to keep happening. Climate change, this is climate change. This is climate disasters, and it's impacting all of us. Like, I'm talking with my city council about absorbing people from Asheville and North Carolina, because all the unhoused folks there, or newly unhoused folks there, a lot of them are going to move to Roanoke because it's similar. It's the same thing that we saw with Houston and New Orleans from Katrina. And so I think one of the things that was really important, that happened the last 2 weeks, is a coming together of all these programs and a communication, and the national network coming together to support these harm reduction agencies in Western North Carolina. And we need to be doing more of that work now, because
Right.
this is going to keep happening.
Okay. Yeah. We have about 6 minutes or thereabouts left, and I want to make sure I give that last 6 minutes to you guys. Like I said, I think that we have, I've come up with with 3 ideas of what I think that we can do. I want to reach out, number one, the CDC, to see, because I mean, we know that they have a plan, and that the plan is that we're supposed to do this capacity building, the CDC funded grantees. This is emergency. Is there anything we can do? I want to at least ask the question. If not, let's try to figure out some other ways that we could maybe find some of that capacity building. And I think we could pull some of the things that have come out of this call, is that when they say, well, to do what? And I think we can get a bit of that. I want to definitely get Lee, and I hope that you will be able to, we'll maybe get a couple of other people to lend some support, that we can get this email out this week about being able to support the organizations that are on this call. And I think that I had a third idea, but I
Real
forgot.
quick, to that front, Tony, for all of y'all dropped the donate links in the chat. We know your organizations, like, we know how to find out what you do, so you don't need to do anything else. We'll make sure that email goes out this week, and Denise will get that to you and everybody else as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Lee. And then we'll do the piece with the CDC. And and I think that maybe one of the things that we can do is kind of take a look at and I think it was maybe one of the things that we can do, Lee, and maybe I didn't say it out loud, is maybe let's work with Emily Blevins and maybe get out a press piece about what all these groups are doing and going through, and maybe try to get something out, just to see if we can get some traction on, hey, here's some of the organizations that get forgotten in crisis like this, or something like that. And so, and I know it's a small bit, but it's a bit. Hopefully, we can just support you in the smallest ways that we know how. And I do think it's an ongoing conversation about what it is that we need. But again, I keep coming back to what people don't understand is that this is what we do, because this is how we do in this part of the country. That's the part, and that's the other part of that story in that press release, is that people don't understand this is I might want to punch in your throat next week, but right now we got to get this thing done. Okay, Stephanie, I never want to punch you in your throat, don't worry about it.
So I
Can we
just want to
also
say,
add to that?
sorry, Denise, go
Oh.
ahead.
Oh, Stephanie, I was gonna, it was just a
I was
quick
just
thought.
gonna reiterate what I put in the box is that everybody's sending us summer sleeping bags, right? It was 30 degrees last night and it's gonna be 30 degrees in the evenings for the next 2 weeks. It's winter here already.
Yeah.
Today it'll be 85. And so
Yeah.
80, 75, 80 people are in that warm temperature. And then
Yeah.
such a dramatic drop causes hypothermia in folks. Like we're
Exactly.
talking dangerous weather for a normal person. Our folks that are in summer sleeping bags are at really high risk. So
Mm.
as we
And
think
Stephanie,
about-
the other
Go ahead.
piece that's really bad too, as well as people tend to forget that that group, that population, they have pets, and that's this type of weather. This is the other thing that we also have to keep in mind as we're talking about this: pets, services, and also counseling. The whole issue of people going through trauma right now. I mean, it is devastating when you come back, like Tony said, back to back. You didn't have time to recover from the first one, and now there's the second one and possibly two more. All of those resources need to be highlighted when we're in a crisis mode like that. So there you go, Stephanie. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it just dropped. It just dropped.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you for everything that you do. And like I said, there are going to be a ton of people who won't get to say it, but thank you. And I'm going to say thank you on their behalf too. You know, again, you do the hard work. I just get to sit around and look pretty. Again, Danny, this is where you laugh. It's a joke. Perfect. But no, really, seriously. And I know you guys have to be exhausted. And you know what we would like to do is that we're gonna send you each $50 so you can at least get a cup of coffee and a donut on us for yourself.
Yeah.
Don't give our
Yeah.
money away. You
That's
take
it. Thank you. Thank you, Tony, for saying
you
that.
take
Thank
the
you.
$50 and you
Dollars,
go get
thank
you
you.
a cupcake and a coffee. Don't
Thank
go
you.
give the money away. Don't go buy a can of Spam. I don't want to
Thank
hear
you.
about it.
Good.
You go get you a snack and a
Thank you.
coffee. And
Thank you.
Lee and Lavina will make sure that you guys and
Thank you.
if we have
Thank
to
you.
get your personal cell phone number so I have to cash app you out of my own money. Go get it for you. Don't give it away.
Thank you.
I don't want to hear, but Timmy needed more than me. No, really, Mr. Dickens, he needs it more than me. No, Timmy don't get it today. All right? Okay.
Well
right.
done. Well
Thank
done.
you all so much for what you do. All
Yeah.
right. See y'all. I'll see y'all all soon. All right. Take care.